Two men journey to the bars and restaurants of Scandinavia to find amazing beers, always with the same question.
Hey, what's on tap?
It's time to find out.
All right. Welcome back to What's on Tap podcast.
What's on tap?
What's on Pap Pop Pap. This episode we are at Metro.
Yeah, I was going to say this episode, word crimes. Apparently.
Word crimes, yes.
No,
Crimes against English.
So, Restaurant Metro is an old classic in Malmo that used to be. It's been there for like forever, ever.
Yeah.
It used to be called something very similarly many years before, but I can't remember. I don't think it's Retro. I don't think Retro became Metro. But
No, Retro was on the other side of the block, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But something.
It was over by Malmo Tap Room.
Yeah. And they've always had beers here, but they used to be like a under the radar kind of place. Then in like 2019, 2020, they started to be more open with the fact that they had a
beer cellar?
pretty rich beer cellar.
Yeah.
And that's what we've gone for today. They have like 10 to 12 taps, half of which are very standard Guinness, Carlsberg, whatever.
Yeah, like Two Towers, Lagunitas IPA, Lindemans of some sort. But then they also throw in some local stuff.
Yeah.
And they always seem to have a Rodenbach on tap.
Yeah.
And some German beer as well. So it's the most eclectic. It's the most eclectic, unimpressive tap that you'll see in all of Malmo.
Yeah.
Because it's like, there's some good stuff, and then there's some bad stuff, and then there's a lot of middle of the road stuff.
Yeah, whenever I go here, I usually take something from tap that I haven't had before, but I never went here specifically for a tap beer. I've never looked at the tap list and gone, let's go to Metro because of this.
Yeah, I will agree with you on that one. I've never come here for the tap list. I've always come here for the bottles.
Yeah.
Because the bottle collection in their cellar is actually pretty impressive for what they are. And you would think, like, with your tap list being so kind of all over the place, you would think that their bottles and cans wouldn't be as good, but it's really quite a solid list.
Yeah. When it comes to Driefontainen's, they have 25 in their untapped list. They have 25 different variants, and we can just assume that that's correct, and including like bottles of Zenne and Rodebosbes and Blauebosbes, the blueberry and the lingonberry versions, and a lot of different stuff. So it's a good lambic cellar. A lot of Tilquin, no Cantillon, but stuff.
There's Boone.
Yeah.
You said there's
Boone as well.
Yeah. I said Cantillon is the only one that they're missing, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of Boone, a lot of Tilquin, and then a lot of Driefontainen.
Yes.
So that's really, that's pretty good. That's not bad at all.
And we'll talk more about Driefontainen later, because the first beer we picked is actually the classic Orval.
Yes, so this is the 2023 version.
Yes.
We thought maybe we could get one of the cellar versions, but apparently they don't have those.
The untapped list only mentioned the 2019 version and nothing else. But 2023 was the one he found, and it's a new vintage for us. We haven't tried the freshest one. So we figured, why not?
Yeah. And a lot of people... Orval's a really good cellaring beer. It ages out actually quite nicely. And, fresh is also really good.
Did it taste good for you?
Oh, I haven't tried it yet. We're gonna try it soon. Yeah, it's okay. So,
there's a reason why the bartender came and just asked us how we were doing and if everything's good. But we'll get to that.
We'll come back to that, yeah.
We need to get through Orval first.
Yeah.
But there is a staunch group of Orval fanatics that think it should always be drank either completely fresh or exactly 5 years, and like not otherwise too young, otherwise in the middle period, or too old. 5 years, that's a specific group I've heard, and fresh, that's another one, and this one is only about 4 months old.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good for a Belgian, whatever this style is. Orval is in its own. It's like a breaded Belgian ale. It is a Trappist. It
is a Trappist. I believe it comes out as a Belgian blonde, I want to say.
But that's doing it a disservice.
I could be wrong on that. I may have to look it up. I don't have Untapped open in front of me to look, but it's not a... I don't remember what it's actually labeled as, but it's a good solid.
Untapped says Pale Ale Belgian.
Yeah, Belgian Pale Ale. I knew it was something like that.
That is doing it a disservice because it differs quite wildly from Belgian Pale Ales.
Yeah, definitely. But the smell is just like that funky Belgian yeast.
But it's interesting. All the other Trappist monasteries, they put out 3 or 4 different beers. They put out like double, triple, quadruple, whatever.
Yeah.
Orval just puts out this one.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
Like,
because they
screw
found,
you. We found the recipe.
We found the recipe 300 years ago, and we're going to stick with it. Why mess with perfection? And it's semi-murky.
Yeah. As I said, it has that nice, funky Belgian yeast smell, which I kind of love. And it comes in at a 6.9. So that's not bad.
It's not bad.
What do you think?
I mean, I do like Orval. I loved it since the first time I tried it because it's so special. Orval might have been my first breatted beer I ever tried. It's not impossible. Back then, intentionally breatted beers weren't as prevalent as they are now. Now, like when Mikkeller makes a Brett IPA, you know it's gone too mainstream, and that was years ago.
Right. I would say that the Brett beers have really calmed down in recent years. It used to be that they were the hot shit, and they would see them on all the time.
Yeah.
But I would say in 2023, they are a little more harder to come by than they used to be, which I'm glad, because a lot of times they were putting them out and they were pretty bad beers. But Orval is really killing it here.
What I really want to mention is the aftertaste, because it was a long time since I took that sip now, and it's still kind of lingering, this funky, bready, yeasty, slightly bitter flavor that's quite pleasant. It has a little bit of everything, and it's usually in the aftertaste, a lot of those, it's usually one note aftertastes on other beers, right?
Yeah. And I would say this is an interesting beer, and I think if you're looking for something that's a palate pleaser, this is a really good choice because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of rewarding after flavors. If you want a simple beer that's you don't have to think a lot about, you're going to hate this beer. I think this isn't a starter beer. It's more of a person that understands what they're drinking kind of beer, and they get the complexities of what's happening within the glass and within the bottle itself.
I can only agree with you.
I think you're going to find a lot here that's very rewarding and very enjoyable. But yeah, if you're looking for a real simple beer, you're probably going to be put off by this quite a bit. Because it's funky. It's a really funky beer.
Okay, so
yes.
Are we now going to get to the real meat and bones of this?
Nope, we're going to review this first.
Oh, a 4.
4 for me as well.
I mean, it's so eclectic, it's so special, it's so unique. It's very few beers compared to it.
100%.
So it actually should be its own beer style, or no?
It kind of should be. It is one of those rare instances where the beer is its own thing.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, even though other Belgian beers do a version of this, there's only one Orval. And it's freaking amazing. Okay, so what do we got next?
So next, when you looked at they have an arrangement of bottles behind the bar with prices written on the bottles.
Yes.
You identified a Driefonteinen bottle with a paper label, the old paper label, that said 149 on it.
Yes.
Next, and it was a Creek paper label. Next to a modern screen print bottle of fresh Creek, which said 149.
Yeah.
It was the same price for paper label and screen print. And they stopped with screen print in 17.
Right. So this beer is 7 to 8 years old at this point?
It's from 2016.
Yes.
It's not in the Untapped list at all, that they have 2016. But the Oud Goes 2016 is in the tap list, where a big bottle would cost $495.
Yeah, when I saw this was 145 and it was the old paper label, I was like, they don't know what they've got because this is a 7-8-year-old beer,
which is so weird because with the Oud Goes, they know what they have.
Yeah.
The Creek seems to have just slipped through the cracks.
Ooh, it smells really good too.
And it took forever for them to find it, and they brought up the screen print labels and were, "No, sorry, we really want that one," and we pointed at the paper label one, which said 149. But that one wasn't chilled, so they wouldn't serve us. I mean, that particular
Yeah.
bottle had been stood out in the sun. I don't think the display bottles are that good.
And this one wasn't like super refrigerated. It was
They say
probably
cellar cool.
cellar cool. And their cellar's pretty cool because this bottle was pretty cool when we got it. It's since warmed up, and they serve it the right way. They know what they're doing here because you've got the cage on the side with the cork in the middle.
Yeah.
So they've really done a great job of presenting
They've attached the cork and cage to the bottleneck
Right.
in a very pleasing...
which is a sign of like a bar that knows how to serve goods.
Yes.
So this isn't their first rodeo, as they would say.
Exactly.
And the beer itself is
We've been served in these wonderful, tiny...
it's just this beautiful amber color. You really feel cherry coming all the way through this thing.
Cheers,
And the smell is just fresh cherry. You don't get cinnamon. You don't get like a lot of other things. It smells like literally they just pick cherries off the tree and put them in this glass.
Right. I've had a number of Creek beers recently, both from Driffonteinen and Cantillon, and actually, what was it? I don't know. There were more lambic breweries. Fresh Creek, and I'm starting to get over Fresh Creek.
I don't like Fresh Creek. I'll be honest with you. If it hasn't been sitting on the shelf for 5 years, I'm not interested.
Exactly. So this one, which has 7 years of age, this is where it's at.
Yeah. There's something about Creek beers. If they're too fresh, I don't find them interesting. I find them to be kind of unbalanced and a little sour and just not really that interesting. But if you give them 5 to 10 years, they become like a real wow kind of beer.
And this one is really up there.
And this goes for Cantillon or Driffonteinen or any kind of Creek beer, I think.
Yeah. Any unpleasant super acidity, which can exist in some, even in Driffonteinen, which is my favorite brewery, but even there, Fresh Creeks can be really almost gastric acid.
Yeah.
Like you get, what is it called when you go...
Acid reflux.
Yeah, acid
kind of,
reflux.
yeah.
You don't want that flavor. All of that is gone here. All that's left is this pleasant cherry, even cherry pit flavor with a lot of
And the cherry pits
complexity.
give a little bit of a cinnamon kind of note to it. I would say this has a nice tartness to it. It still feels very lively and very fresh. Honestly, you could let this go another probably 5 years and it's going to be just as nice as it is right now.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of life in this bottle, and there's still a lot of potential for aging. I think I don't know how many bottles they have here.
I don't know either. I mean, you will never find it
Yeah.
cheaper at any other bar.
Yeah, but you could definitely, if you still have this in 5 or 6 years, it's going to be a really great beer still.
Yeah.
Probably even better than it is today.
Yeah. In Belgium, you can probably find it. This is a small bottle, fair.
Yeah.
You could probably find it cheaper in Belgium, near the source.
Yeah.
But Belgium has always been very finicky with their lambic pricing. They've kept them down. It's a point of pride for them that this is not a luxury hipster drink. This is an old school workers, and I mean they do have that kind of mentality.
Yeah.
This is a
but what's
people's
weird
drink
is in Brussels, it's actually kind of hard to find lambics.
because it sells out.
Yeah. So you have to go in the suburb or the surrounding villages to find the lambics. Because they're usually not super high ABV. This one's 6%. Usually very easy to drink, very clean, and this one is no exception. This is really outstanding. Like I said, I wish we could try this again in like 5 years.
I have a few bottles at home.
Do you?
Yeah, my salary does include this vintage. 2016 is the most easy paper label to find because it's the latest. I mean,
it was the last of
the
everything.
most recent one.
Yeah. They're probably dumping everything so they can bring in the new labels at that point as well.
Yeah. As really astute experts who might call me out on this because I'm going out on a limb with my knowledge. As far as I remember, 2009 is the critical vintage because that's when they had their big accident where a heat thermometer broke and the entire storage room got overheated. And they needed to dump thousands and thousands and thousands of liters. That's when they almost went bankrupt.
That was after the fire.
Driffontainen didn't have a fire.
Didn't they? I thought they had a huge fire. And basically almost went out of business because everything burned down and they had to make gin.
No, that was because of a thermometer malfunction.
Oh, okay.
That made everything become way too heated and basically unusable.
There was another brewery in...
Hoftendomal.
Something like that, yeah.
And they made a lot of collaboration beers after, but that basically was named Pity About the Fire, Oh No, Fires, Smoke, stuff like that.
Because I remember when, so one of the reasons why Driffontainen has such a sweet spot in their heart for Sweden is when they had that problem and they were making gin and vodka to stay in business still. Sweden ordered deep on that. They went hard. Yeah. They went hard as a motherfucker on the ordering there. And kind of kept them from going under in a lot of ways. And so that's why we've seen a couple of special releases from them. And we see them throwing a lot of bottles into Systembolaget, which is super nice.
Yeah, so I just Googled. 2009... 2009 was it's called Hot Cherry Bottles. The few bottles that survived the thermostat incident. So even though that bottle run would have been big, the amount of bottles that survived aren't that big. So that's one of those. That's like the weirdest vintage is the 2009.
So what would you give this the 2016?
Somewhere around the 4.5 or even 4.75.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a 4.5 because I think it's just going to get better with age. If you can try this again in a few more years, I think it's going to be an even better beer. This is really, really solid. I'm super enjoying this.
It is solid. I also tried to Insta research. This label actually says one-way bottle in a little graphic. And as far as I remember, those were the bottles that were exported to the US. They were meant to be one-way. We're sending them to the US. They should never come back. This might have been one that was held back or something. I don't know.
But I think they probably had a lot of leftovers. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that I've seen a lot of the Udgas from this time that had one-way bottle written on it as well.
Well, I just might be mistaken on that one.
Well, all right. Well, we'll wrap it up here then.
So Metro is a great place.
Metro is a great place. We really, really like it. It's a fun place to stop in, and it's usually pretty hopping. I mean, there's usually pretty good crowd, a lot of turnover here.
And now it's surrounded by other craft beer bars, so it should be a no-brainer inclusion in any pub crawl.
Yes, 100%. All right, you can find us online at what'sontappodcast.com, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you can find quality podcasts, you can find us. So until next time, keep drinking if I'm done.